Chapter 16. Festivals and Quiet Bonds. Rome is a city of festivals. Its streets are often alive with color, music, and the scent of flowers and incense. Yet even in celebration, the city holds a softer rhythm, one that flows beneath the parades and the drums. A rhythm of quiet bonds, of connections that bloom in the warmth of shared moments. It begins with morning light spilling over the rooftops. The streets are dressed in garlands of laurel and bright ribbons. Merchants arrange stalls with fresh fruit, honey cakes, and small trinkets meant as offerings. The air smells of rosemary, wine, and the faint smoke of torches that will later light the evening streets. Children skip along the cobblestones, their laughter mixing with the murmur of the gathering crowd. A young Roman walks slowly through the forum, watching the city awaken to the festival. Drummers tap softly on their instruments, testing the rhythm that will guide the day. Dancers in simple costumes practice slow turns near the colonnade. In the distance, the Tiber glints under the rising sun, reflecting the first bright colors of the festival banners. He carries nothing in his hands, yet the morning feels like a gift all its own. Festivals in Rome are full of life, but they also carry small, intimate moments that history rarely records. Two friends meet near a fountain, exchanging a simple sprig of laurel as a token of good fortune. A baker leans from his stall to offer a honey cake to a familiar face passing by. A musician smiles quietly at someone in the crowd before lifting his flute to play. These gestures are the soft threads that weave through the day's brighter colors. As the sun climbs higher, the festival hums with gentle energy. Trumpets and flutes join the rhythm of drums, and the streets fill with slow-moving processions. Priests in white robes walk with measured steps, carrying small statues or offerings for the gods. Children scatter petals along the path, their movements as light as the wind. Every sound and sight is part of a larger pattern, grand enough to stir the city, yet soft enough to cradle those who walk quietly among it. In the midst of the celebration, quiet bonds form. A glance across the street carries warmth and understanding. A hand brushes against another as friends pass through the crowd. In a small shaded courtyard, away from the noise, two young Romans pause to share a cup of watered wine. They do not need to speak much. The festival hum surrounds them, and the simple act of sharing the moment feels like its own offering to the day. By afternoon, the light turns golden, and the festival reaches its gentle peak. Dancers twirl slowly in open spaces, their movements mirroring the flicker of torches and the sway of banners. Music flows like a river, rising and falling, never harsh, always inviting. The young Roman lingers near the temple steps, watching the procession pass, and feels a quiet joy settle in his chest, not from the noise but from the simple beauty of people moving together, of the city breathing as one. Evening comes softly. The torches are lit, and the warm glow spills into every alley and corner. The smell of roasted nuts and honey fills the streets, mingling with the cool scent of river air. Families gather to watch the last offerings placed on altars, their faces lit by firelight and the soft glint of expectation. Somewhere in the crowd, a pair of hands meet briefly, fingers brushing in the shadows. The city is alive, but the moment belongs only to them. When the festival winds down, the streets are quiet once more. Petals rest on the stones. Torches burn lower, their smoke curling into the night. The soft hum of the city returns, carrying the memory of the day in the scent of flowers and the faint echo of music. Those who shared a glance, a gesture, or a gift carry it home like a hidden flame, warming the night as they drift into dreams. In Rome, festivals are for the gods, but they are also for the heart. They remind the city not only of its grandeur, but of the soft threads of human connection that move quietly through every street, binding lives together in the gentlest of ways. Chapter 17. Evenings by the Tiber. Evening descends gently on Rome, and the Tiber catches the last light of day like a river of liquid bronze. Its surface ripples softly under the weight of the breeze, carrying the reflections of bridges, columns, and the faint glow of distant lamps. By the river's edge, the city seems to breathe differently, slower, softer, as if the water itself hums a lullaby to those who wander close. A young Roman strolls along the embankment, sandals pressing into the packed earth of the path. Behind him, the streets are beginning to quiet, their sounds softened by distance. The occasional clink of a blacksmith's hammer echoes faintly, fading as he moves closer to the water. The river has its own language, the whisper of current against stone, the soft lap at the wooden piers, and the faint creak of moored boats swaying with the tide. Along the banks, small gatherings settle into the evening. A fisherman mends his net by lamplight, his hands moving in slow, practiced motions. A family sits near the reeds, sharing a basket of bread and cheese as the sun lowers behind the rooftops. Two children skip stones across the gentle current, their laughter mingling with the splash of each pebble. Life here is quiet, unhurried, and full of small joys. As the sun finally dips below the horizon, the sky shifts to soft indigo. Bridges become silhouettes, their arches reflected in the water like dark halos. The first stars blink into view, and a soft breeze carries the scent of the river, fresh, earthy, and faintly sweet with the fragrance of flowering plants along the bank. In the half-light, the Tiber becomes a world of its own. A young man pauses on a stone step leading down to the water, leaning forward to trail his fingers along the surface. The coolness surprises him, and he smiles to himself, watching the ripples spread outward, catching and bending the lamplight. Across the river, a torch flickers on a passing boat, the flame mirrored perfectly in the water below. Evenings by the Tiber are full of unspoken connections. A brief nod exchanged between two strangers walking opposite paths. A soft wave from the fisherman to the boy who watches him from the steps. A young couple leaning against the low wall of the embankment, speaking in whispers, the current carrying their words into the night. In these moments, the river feels like a keeper of secrets, holding the city's gentlest memories in its slow-moving embrace. As night deepens, the lamps along the banks grow brighter against the darkness. Their light pools in small circles, painting the ground in warm gold, while leaving the spaces between in soft shadow. Fireflies join the lamps, dancing low over the reeds, blinking like tiny echoes of the stars above. A musician seated near the water with a small flute plays a simple melody that floats across the river and seems to linger in the ripples. The Tiber has seen empires rise and will see them fall, but in this moment, it is only a river. Its calm current carries petals, leaves, and bits of reflected starlight. It watches over the quiet walks, the shared laughter, the thoughtful silences of those who find peace along its edge. For the young Roman who lingers here, it feels as if the river speaks directly to him, telling a story older than the city itself, one of patience, flow, and gentle, endless motion. When he finally turns to go, the night air is cool and soft. The water continues its journey, unbothered and eternal, carrying the lights of Rome like drifting jewels. Behind him, the quiet of the Tiber will remain, holding his footsteps in its memory long after he has closed his eyes and drifted into sleep. Chapter 18. Whispers in the Atrium. Night has settled gently over Rome, and the villa's walls breathe in the soft quiet of the hour. The city beyond is hushed, save for a distant dog's bark or the faint rumble of a cart on cobblestones. Inside, the atrium is a world of its own, a place where water and shadow weave a lullaby for those who linger. The atrium is the heart of the Roman home. By day, it is a space of movement, guests passing through, sunlight spilling from the compluvium, the square opening in the roof. But at night, the atrium transforms. Oil lamps glow in soft halos along the walls, their flames bending in the lightest draft. The impluvium, the shallow pool at the center, mirrors the lamplight and the sliver of moon above, creating ripples that dance gently across the ceiling. A young Roman walks barefoot across the cool stone floor, the air around him soft and fragrant with the lingering scent of laurel and lamp oil. He kneels by the pool, letting his fingers drift in the water. The ripples move outward in perfect circles, meeting the reflections of the lamps, distorting them into golden waves. Somewhere in the upper rooms, a door creaks softly, and a faint footstep answers. The atrium is a place where whispers find a home. Voices need not rise above the quiet hum of water to be heard. Two figures meet in the corner, seated on a low bench beneath a painted wall. They lean close, speaking in words so soft that even the water might struggle to catch them. A smile flickers in the lamplight, and a hand brushes briefly against another. A small touch that carries more than speech ever could. Frescoes on the walls glow in muted colors under the lamplight. They show gardens, birds, and mythic scenes. Apollo with his lyre, a reclining nymph by a stream. By day, these images are simply decoration, but by night, they feel alive, leaning into the secrets the atrium keeps. A painted bird seems to watch as the ripples in the pool reflect against the wall like moving shadows, as if the art itself is listening. The soft rhythm of the house continues. A servant pads quietly through the hallway, setting another lamp near the threshold before retreating into the shadows. A cat stretches near the impluvium, its eyes half closed, tail twitching with drowsy contentment. From the street outside comes the faint murmur of the Tiber in the distance and the occasional flutter of a night bird. Whispers in the atrium are never hurried. They belong to the slow hours, to the time after the day's weight has lifted. Here, words can float without the burden of duty or performance. They speak of memories, a shared walk in the villa gardens, a glance exchanged in the crowded forum, the warm familiarity of lives that have brushed together quietly in the wide and busy city. As the night deepens, the air cools. The lamps burn lower, and their flames sway gently, painting soft patterns on the walls. The water in the impluvium reflects the moon, now higher in the sky, and the occasional ripple sends the light shivering like a dream. Those who linger here feel as though the villa has drawn a protective circle around them, holding their secrets, their soft laughter, and their unspoken thoughts. Eventually, the whispers fade. A hand lingers for one last moment. A glance rests for a heartbeat longer, and then the atrium returns to its deeper silence. Only the water speaks now, its quiet drip into the pool, as steady as the rhythm of sleep. A lamp flickers, then steadies, as if nodding toward rest. When the last footsteps retreat down the hall and the atrium empties, the space itself seems to sigh. It will hold these whispers in its walls, in the reflection of the pool, and in the drifting scent of lamp oil and laurel. By the time the house drifts fully into sleep, the atrium is once again just a room. But in its stillness lingers the warmth of connection, the echo of voices softer than the night breeze. Chapter 19. Lanterns along the streets. Night falls over Rome, and the city begins to shimmer in a new, gentler light. The last traces of the sun slip behind the hills, leaving the streets to the warm glow of lanterns and the soft rhythm of evening footsteps. By day, the city is alive with the voices of merchants, the clatter of carts, and the shouts of children. But by night, the streets transform into a quieter world, one of soft flickering lights, long shadows, and the whisper of a city breathing in its sleep. Oil lanterns hang from doorways and iron brackets along the main streets. Their flames sway in the breeze, casting small circles of golden light on the stone walls. Between these halos, darkness pools like a gentle river, broken only by the occasional torch carried by a passerby. Each flicker of light reveals a new, softer Rome, the curve of an arch, the texture of worn cobblestones, the gentle movement of a curtain in an open window. A young Roman walks slowly along a narrow street. His sandals click softly against the stones, echoing lightly in the still air. In the distance, he hears the faint laughter of neighbors finishing supper, the low notes of a flute drifting from a nearby window, and the soft murmur of the Tiber beyond the rooftops. Every lantern he passes seems to greet him with its quiet warmth, and every shadow feels like a soft invitation to linger. Lanterns along the streets do more than light the way. They hold the city together after the sun departs, marking paths for travelers and creating small islands of comfort in the darkness. Beneath their glow, soft moments unfold. A family leans from a doorway to speak in hushed voices. Two friends pause under a lantern to share a quiet laugh. A dog curls up beneath a stoop, bathed in golden light, as the night cradles the world in stillness. The streets of Rome are never entirely empty. Occasional footsteps echo from the far end of a lane. A cart creaks as it rolls slowly toward the market, pulled by a single patient mule. In the distance, temple torches flicker like small constellations, their light shimmering against marble steps and columns. But here, away from the bustling forum and the noisy taverns, the streets are ruled by calm. A soft drizzle begins, and the cobblestones glisten under the lanterns. The young Roman pauses to watch the way the light bends and stretches in the tiny puddles. The reflections tremble with the passing breeze, as if the lantern flames themselves are dancing on the ground. He inhales deeply, taking in the cool scent of wet stone, olive oil smoke, and distant river air. Further along, a side street opens into a small square. Here, a fountain gurgles softly in the center, its surface catching the reflections of surrounding lamps. The square is nearly empty, save for a man closing the shutters of his shop and a cat that moves silently along the fountain's edge. Above, the sky is clear enough for the first stars to shine, and they seem to echo the lanterns below. Two worlds mirroring each other in gentle light. Lantern-lit streets invite reflection. The young Roman slows his steps, letting his thoughts wander. He remembers a friend's smile from the baths, a quiet moment in the garden earlier that day, and the letter he tucked into a small wooden box without sending. In the silence of these streets, memories feel as if they belong to the city itself, carried along by the shadows and settled into the corners of ancient stone. When he finally returns to his home, the streets behind him remain alive with their soft glow. The lanterns will burn until the oil runs out, or the first hints of dawn brighten the sky. The city will hold its secrets in their gentle light, whispering them to the walls, the windows, and the night breeze that moves quietly through the alleys. For those who wander these streets under the lantern's watch, Rome reveals one of its gentlest faces. It is a city that, even in darkness, shines not with marble or triumphs, but with soft golden light and the quiet promise that some moments are meant only to be felt and then carried into sleep. Chapter 20. A Night of Gentle Rain. The evening in Rome begins with a hush that feels different from other nights. The air carries a cool weight, and the first soft drops of rain fall onto the warm cobblestones, making a sound so delicate it could be mistaken for a whisper. Above, clouds veil the moon, and the city exhales into a rhythm that belongs to nights like this, a rhythm of water, stone, and quiet hearts. In a small villa, a young Roman pauses by the open window. He watches as the rain forms tiny rivers along the edges of the street, catching the glow of lanterns in trembling ribbons of gold. The scent of wet earth and olive trees drifts into the room, mingled with the soft smoke of a nearby oil lamp. He rests his arms on the windowsill and listens. The gentle patter on the roof tiles, the distant splash of water gathering in the impluvium of the atrium, and the muffled sound of the Tiber flowing patiently through the city. Rain softens Rome in a way nothing else can. Streets that echo with footsteps by day now sing with the light music of falling water. The stones glisten, and every archway, every column, every quiet alley seems to lean closer to listen. A few neighbors step out to adjust shutters or retrieve items from courtyards, exchanging small nods and smiles beneath the drizzle. Even these gestures feel slower, more tender, as if the rain has wrapped the city in a soft blanket of calm. The young Roman leaves the window and walks into the atrium. The impluvium at its center gathers the rain through the opening in the roof, the water rippling gently under the touch of falling drops. He kneels beside it, watching the circles expand and fade. The light of the lamp reflects in the water, mingling with the pale glow of the clouded night sky. Every ripple feels like the passing of a thought, drifting slowly toward stillness. In the garden, the rain has its own conversation. Leaves glisten like polished glass, and tiny streams form along the paths, carrying stray petals toward the pond. A lone snail makes its slow journey along a stone edge, undisturbed by the night. A small statue of a nymph gleams in the wet lamplight, her marble hair streaked with silver drops, as if she herself had paused to enjoy the quiet. By the time the rain deepens into a steady rhythm, the city is nearly asleep. A muffled thunder rolls in the distance, gentle enough to comfort rather than startle. Somewhere, a wooden shutter taps lightly against its frame. Water flows along the streets, pooling in low corners, reflecting lantern light like fragments of the starry sky hidden behind the clouds. In a small alley, a cat curls beneath an archway, tail wrapped tight, listening to the rain fall on the stones it knows so well. Inside the villa, the sound of rain becomes a lullaby. The young Roman lies on a mat near the open window, watching droplets gather and slide down the wooden frame. The air is cool, carrying the soft scent of wet cypress. In the next room, the last lamp flickers and then steadies, its light golden against the damp night. He closes his eyes, not in sleep yet, but in that gentle in-between where the world feels softer and every small sound feels like part of a dream. Rome has many faces, but few as tender as this. A city at rest under gentle rain, where footsteps are rare, voices are hushed, and the world seems to pause in quiet agreement with the sky. The rain will pass, as all things do, but tonight it is a companion, holding the city in its careful, endless rhythm. And as the night deepens, the rain continues, soft and patient. Droplets trace their paths along tile, stone, and leaf, whispering to those awake that even in a city of marble and history, there are nights that belong entirely to the quiet and to the heart that listens. Chapter 21. The soft glow of the Forum at dawn. The first light of dawn drifts quietly over Rome, brushing the rooftops with a soft golden hue. The Forum, so often alive with voices and movement, rests in a rare moment of stillness. Shadows linger in the corners of temples and colonnades, and the air carries the cool freshness of a night recently passed. For a brief time, the heart of the city belongs not to the crowds or the clamor, but to the gentle light and the whispers of stone. The marble columns seem to awaken slowly. Their pale surfaces catch the sun's earliest rays, glowing softly against the soft blue of the retreating night. Statues of gods and heroes, which stand silent through every hour, appear almost alive in this tender light, their features softened and warm. The young Roman who rises early to wander these streets walks barefoot over the cold stone, savoring the way the air feels against his skin, cool, pure, and full of quiet promise. The Forum is a different world at dawn. The bustling merchants have not yet arrived. The orators have not yet raised their voices. The paving stones are empty, save for a few stray petals from last night's offerings, carried gently by the breeze. Water from the fountains moves with unhurried grace, creating a soft and constant murmur that seems to harmonize with the birds waking in the nearby gardens. As he walks past the Temple of Saturn, the young Roman pauses. He leans against a column, letting his fingers brush the smooth, cold marble. Above, the faint song of a lark drifts over the open space, and the first true warmth of the sun begins to reach the stones under his feet. He inhales deeply, filling his lungs with the scent of damp stone and laurel leaves. The city, for this brief hour, feels as if it belongs entirely to him and the light. In the distance, the Capitoline Hill stirs with the soft glow of the rising sun. The shadows of columns stretch long across the Forum floor, as if reaching toward the new day. A few figures appear. An elderly man sweeping near a shrine, a woman placing a small clay jar of honey as an offering, a sleepy dog trotting past without hurry. Their movements are part of the calm rhythm, unhurried and harmonious, adding to the dreamlike stillness of the morning. Dawn in the Forum is a time for reflection. The young Roman sits on the steps of the Basilica Julia, feeling the chill of the stone seep gently into his skin. He watches the sunlight creep along the pavement, illuminating the grooves and cracks worn smooth by countless footsteps. He imagines the lives that have crossed this space, the laughter, the arguments, the celebrations and departures. Now, the Forum is only a soft echo of these moments, a cradle of memory resting under the tender light of daybreak. As the sun rises higher, the marble gleams with a quiet brilliance. The water in the fountains catches fire with reflections of gold, and the gentle wind stirs the faint smoke from a nearby altar where incense has been left to smolder. A pair of pigeons coo from a temple roof, their soft wings catching the first beams of the day. The young Roman finally rises, taking one last slow walk along the sacred road. His footsteps are the only sound beyond the murmur of water and the occasional call of a bird. He feels the peace of the early hours settling into him, a calm he will carry through the day, even as the forum fills with voices and life. The soft glow of the forum at dawn is fleeting, but it leaves a lasting warmth. It reminds the heart that even in the busiest of cities, there are hours reserved for silence, for reflection, and for the gentle touch of light on stone. And when the first merchants arrive and the world of Rome awakens, the memory of this soft hour lingers like a whisper carried into the day. Chapter 22. The gentle murmur of the market. Morning unfolds slowly over Rome, and the market wakes with it, not with shouts or clamor, but with a gentle hum of life that rises like steam from warm bread. The sun touches the rooftops first, then slides down to the cobblestones, where soft footsteps begin to trace familiar paths. Lanterns are dimmed, awnings are unfurled, and the soft smell of olives and fresh figs drifts through the cool air. The market is alive, but in a way that soothes rather than stirs. Vendors speak in low tones, arranging their baskets of fruit and vegetables in careful patterns: bright oranges, green herbs, dark purple plums. A fishmonger rinses his hands in a small basin, water catching the light as it falls. Clay jars and amphorae gleam faintly with oil, their smooth surfaces cool to the touch. Every object seems to wait patiently, content to be admired before it is taken. A young Roman moves slowly through the stalls, hands behind his back. He pauses often, letting his eyes wander from bread to cheese to small dishes of honeycomb glistening in the morning sun. The soft murmur of conversation drifts around him, gentle greetings, quiet bargaining, and the occasional shared laugh that feels as if it belongs to everyone in earshot. No voice rises above the others. The market breathes as a single calm rhythm. In the corner, an elderly woman sells bundles of rosemary and thyme. Her stall is modest, but the air around it is rich with scent. The young Roman takes a sprig, rubs it between his fingers, and inhales deeply. The fragrance carries with it the warmth of gardens, the memory of meals shared in quiet courtyards, and the simple joy of ordinary life. She smiles and nods without a word, the gesture as gentle as the morning breeze. The soundscape of the market is a lullaby of small details. The soft tap of clay jars set on wooden tables, the rustle of linen as awnings sway, the muted call of a distant vendor offering fresh pears, the light splash of water as a boy refills a shallow basin to keep herbs fresh. Every sound is unhurried, woven into the calm heartbeat of the square. Nearby, a baker sets out warm loaves, their golden crusts releasing a faint, sweet aroma into the air. A pair of children stand close to the stall, eyes wide, and the baker tears a small piece to share with them. They take it shyly, nodding in thanks, and the young Roman watches with a soft smile. He moves on, stopping at a stall with small terracotta lamps shaped like doves and leaves. The vendor lifts one gently, letting the light of the sun catch its smooth curve, and for a moment, it feels like a fragment of warmth held in the palm of a hand. As the sun climbs higher, the market settles into its true rhythm. The gentle flow of people continues, a dance of steps and glances, of coins exchanged with soft clinks and hands brushing in passing. A musician appears with a small flute, his notes slow and wandering, blending with the murmur of voices and the occasional coo of pigeons overhead. In this calm, the young Roman feels a sense of belonging. There is no rush here, no need for grandeur or spectacle. The market is a place where life moves in small circles, where a shared smile or a sprig of herbs is as meaningful as a grand feast. He buys a small bundle of figs and a loaf of bread, cradling them in his arms like a secret, then steps to the edge of the square to sit on a low wall and watch. The market at mid-morning glows softly. The stone beneath his legs is warm. The air hums with voices that never press, only drift. He takes a bite of the bread, sweetened by the soft air and the knowledge that life here is measured not in haste, but in moments that feel like sighs. By the time he rises to leave, the market continues its gentle song behind him. He carries its memory with him, the soft light, the scent of time, the music of footsteps and murmured voices. These mornings belong to the quiet heart of the city, where every stall and every stone seems to speak in whispers, reminding Rome and him that even in an empire of marble, the gentlest moments are the ones that linger longest. Chapter 23. Moonlight on the villa roof. The villa sleeps, but the night is alive with soft silver light. The moon has risen high over Rome, casting its glow across the tiled rooftops and quiet courtyards. In the stillness, the roof of the villa becomes a world apart, a private space where the air is cool, the stars are near, and the sounds of the city fade to a gentle hum. A young Roman climbs the narrow steps that lead to the rooftop. Each footstep is soft on the worn stone, and the air grows fresher as he ascends. When he emerges, the night opens around him. The tiles beneath his feet are still warm from the sun, and the world stretches out in muted silver and shadow. Lanterns flicker faintly in distant streets, and the faint whisper of the Tiber drifts across the darkened city. The villa roof is a place for the quiet heart. From here, the city feels like a sleeping creature, vast but gentle. He can see the tops of cypress trees swaying lightly in the night breeze and the pale glint of neighboring rooftops. Above him, the stars scatter like tiny lamps, and the moon casts soft patterns on the slanted tiles, illuminating the space with a glow that feels like a caress. He sits near the edge, legs crossed, and lets his gaze wander. Somewhere nearby, a dog barks once and then falls silent. A single torch flickers on a distant balcony, and he imagines another soul awake, keeping company with the same moon. In the stillness, every sound becomes clear. The sigh of leaves, the murmur of the river, the faint creak of the roof as it settles into the cool night. The rooftop carries its own kind of magic. It is a space between worlds, neither fully part of the house nor the sky. A place where thoughts drift like clouds. The young Roman runs his hand along a tile, feeling the day's warmth slowly fading into the night's calm. He leans back and looks upward, letting his mind empty into the endless sky, where the moon seems both impossibly far and gently close. Sometimes, the roof is a place for quiet company. He remembers the evening spent here with a friend, sharing figs or slices of cheese, speaking in voices no louder than the breeze. Tonight, he is alone, but the memory of those soft moments lingers, as warm and steady as the moonlight. He hums a tune to himself, one he once heard in the Forum, and the notes seem to dissolve into the night. Below, the villa rests in peaceful darkness. The atrium impluvium glimmers faintly, catching a trace of moonlight through the roof opening. A cat walks silently along the wall, pausing to glance upward before disappearing into the shadows. The smell of cypress and damp stone rises from the garden, carried by the soft wind that brushes his face like a whispered blessing. Time drifts differently on the roof. Minutes feel like hours, and hours like drifting dreams. He watches a cloud pass slowly across the moon, softening the silver light, and listens to the world settle deeper into sleep. In that dimming, he feels the simple comfort of being small in a city so old, under a sky so endless, yet feeling completely at home. When he finally lies back fully, the tiles warm against his back, the moonlight washes over him. He can feel the rhythm of the night in the quiet pulse of the air, in the soft shiver of leaves, in the low murmur of the Tiber. Sleep will come soon, not all at once, but as a gentle tide, carrying him from the roof to dreams where the city's whispers and the sky's glow merge into one. Chapter 24. Quiet corners of the library. The sun rests low in the sky, spilling soft golden light through the open windows of the Roman library. It is not the largest building in the city, nor the grandest, but it holds a quiet kind of importance, one that lives in the faint smell of papyrus, the soft weight of scrolls, and the patient silence of its shaded corners. Inside, the air is cool and still. Rows of wooden shelves line the walls, their surfaces dark and smooth from years of use. Clay jars sit in quiet clusters, protecting older scrolls from dust. The faintest whisper of the outside world drifts in through the windows, the distant call of a bird, the muffled hum of a street. But here, the rhythm is slower, as if time itself lowers its voice. A young Roman enters, his footsteps soft on the polished stone floor. He carries nothing but curiosity and the gentle hope of an unhurried hour. He pauses at the threshold to let his eyes adjust to the dim interior, where oil lamps glow softly in niches, casting long golden shadows against the walls. Each flame trembles slightly, as if in agreement with the hushed calm of the space. He wanders slowly among the shelves, fingertips trailing along the edges of wooden cubbies filled with scrolls. The texture of the papyrus is faintly rough, each roll secured with a simple cord or a tag naming the work. He recognizes the titles of poems and histories, some copied many times, others faded from age. Lifting one carefully, he carries it to a quiet alcove where a small stone bench waits in a pool of soft light. In this corner, the world feels far away. He unties the scroll and lets it roll open across his knees, the inked letters flowing like a river of thought across the pale surface. He does not rush to read. He allows his eyes to drift slowly, his mind savoring each curve of a word, each image that rises from the text. Around him, the library breathes softly, holding centuries of thought in its gentle embrace. Every so often, a small sound stirs the stillness. A scribe at the far table dips his brush into ink. A servant carrying a new scroll adjusts a lamp, its faint crackle adding warmth to the silence. A breeze drifts in from the window, stirring a loose ribbon on a scroll, as if the library itself were turning a page in its long memory. The young Roman leans back for a moment, letting the soft lamplight settle on his face. He closes his eyes briefly and imagines the lives behind these words, the poets who watched the same sun rise over Rome, the historians who listened to the soft hum of the forum before committing it to memory. He feels connected to them in the quiet way that only a library can provide, a way that transcends speech and time. As the hour passes, the library grows dimmer, but not colder. The sunlight fades to amber, and the lamps take on the role of the evening sky, their golden glow pooling softly in every corner. Shadows stretch along the floor, and the soft rustle of scrolls and the quiet rhythm of breathing fill the air. He returns the scroll to its place with careful hands. Then he lingers in the aisle, his fingers tracing the spines of other works he may one day read. Each scroll is a door, each label a whisper of a voice waiting to speak. In this room of stillness, surrounded by the soft weight of knowledge, he feels the same peace one finds by the river or under a moonlit sky. When he finally steps out into the evening, the world feels softer. The sky is pale gold, fading to blue, and the street sounds seem almost musical after the library's hush. In his heart, he carries the weight of the quiet, the warmth of the lamps, and the soft echo of a space where thought itself seems to sleep in contentment. Chapter 25. The gentle rhythm of the harbor. The harbor of Rome stirs to life with a rhythm as soft and steady as the tide. In the early hours, when the sun is still low and the air cool, the great river and its open harbor move with a kind of quiet intention. Wooden ships rest side by side, their masts swaying gently, ropes creaking in slow conversation with the wind. The water laps against the stone quays with a tender murmur, as if singing a song older than the city itself. A young Roman stands at the edge of the pier, sandals pressing into the smooth, damp stone. He watches a gull circle low before settling on a post, its reflection trembling in the water below. Fishermen move in silence, untying their boats and casting nets into the soft morning light. The sound of oars dipping into the river blends with the occasional flap of wings, forming a rhythm that feels both lively and soothing. The harbor has its own scent and language. Salt lingers in the air, mingling with the smell of wet rope, river reeds, and the faint smoke of nearby cook fires. Wooden hulls groan softly as the tide shifts, and a low whistle of wind threads through the rigging. Somewhere, a vendor hums as he arranges baskets of fish and figs, his tune drifting over the water like a lazy current. The young Roman steps onto a low wooden dock, feeling it move slightly under his weight. He crouches to trail his fingers through the cool river water, sending ripples toward a small boat tethered nearby. A sailor nods to him from the deck, too comfortable in the calm of the morning to break the silence with words. Here, language is not needed. The harbor speaks with water, wind, and the soft groan of ships preparing for the day. As the sun climbs higher, golden light glides across the surface of the water. It paints the ships in warm tones, catching on coiled ropes and polished oars. Nets heavy with fish are hauled onto the docks, their droplets sparkling as they fall, and the soft thump of baskets meeting wood adds another note to the harbor's quiet music. Children run along the edges, stopping to peer into shallow pools where small fish flash like bits of silver before vanishing. Even in these moments of movement, the harbor remains meditative. Every task is unhurried, flowing like the tide itself. Sailors fold sails with steady hands. Merchants kneel to check their cargoes, tracing the smooth grain of amphora filled with oil or wine. Pigeons and gulls share the air, their wings catching sunlight before they settle again along the rooftops and mooring posts. By midday, the gentle rhythm of the harbor reaches its peak. The sun warms the stone quays, and the air is alive with soft echoes. The slap of a rope against wood, the distant call of a boatman, the faint splash of a net returning to water. A pair of young Romans sit on a pile of coiled rope, sharing a small loaf of bread. They talk in low voices, their laughter no louder than the breeze. Around them, life continues as a slow, enduring pulse. Later, the harbor begins to quiet again. The boats that set out early drift back in, carrying the day's catch. Shadows lengthen along the water, and the golden light turns softer, more forgiving. The young Roman who began the day at the pier returns to the same spot, watching the harbor settle into evening calm. He inhales deeply the smell of river water, rope, and cooling stone, and feels the peace of the day fold around him like a gentle tide. The gentle rhythm of the harbor is not only in its waters, but in its heart. It is in the slow work of hands that tie knots and carry baskets, in the unspoken camaraderie of those who rise with the river, in the soft music of ripples against the hull. It lingers in memory, like the echo of a lullaby, following the young Roman home long after the last boat has been tied and the lanterns along the docks flicker into night. Chapter 26. Along the garden walls at twilight, approx 1,050 words, calm and meditative narration, The day leans gently into twilight, and the villa gardens begin to hum with the soft music of evening. The sun lowers behind the cypress trees, stretching the shadows of vines and walls across the stone paths. The air is warm, but no longer heavy, and the faint scent of jasmine and rosemary drifts lazily, mingling with the cool breath of oncoming night. Along the outer walls of the garden, everything moves in unhurried harmony. A lizard rests on a sun-warmed stone, motionless as the world changes color around it. Ivy climbs in soft spirals, its leaves catching the last light like small sparks of gold. The walls themselves seem to hold the warmth of the day, radiating it gently into the evening air. A young Roman strolls along the path, fingertips brushing the rough texture of the wall. He pauses often, savoring the small details, the way shadows cling to the base of the walls, the soft pattern of moss along the stones, the flutter of a bird settling into its roost. Every step feels like a quiet conversation with the garden, a dialogue made of scent, light, and memory rather than words. The twilight transforms the garden into a painting of soft tones. Oranges and pinks fade into dusky purples, and the first stars shimmer faintly above the villa roof. A low wall borders a cluster of olive trees, their leaves whispering as the wind begins to stir. From somewhere deep in the garden comes the faint trickle of a fountain, its voice softened by distance, blending with the evening chorus of crickets and the occasional coo of a dove. The young Roman stops at a corner where the wall meets a small gate. Here, the ivy is thick, and the scent of night-blooming flowers rises from the earth. He rests on the low stone edge, letting his sandals slip off so that his feet can feel the cool touch of the ground. The garden holds him in its slow heartbeat, and for a moment, he feels as though the world has narrowed to this single soft twilight. Sometimes, a neighbor passes beyond the wall, and a quiet exchange occurs. A low greeting, a brief smile, or even the simple acknowledgement of shared peace. Words are not needed in these hours. The stillness of the garden communicates everything. The young Roman tucks a small sprig of rosemary into his tunic pocket, a fragment of the evening he will carry with him long after the stars fully claim the sky. Twilight deepens, and the garden begins to glow in its own way. A single lamp is lit near the walkway, casting a small circle of golden light on the stones. Shadows grow long and soft, merging with the dusky air. The walls, once bright in the sun, now appear to hold secrets in their shaded crevices. The rustle of leaves and the faint hum of night insects seem to rise and fall in time with the young Roman's breathing. As the first coolness of night settles, he begins his slow walk back along the wall. He moves with the rhythm of the evening, unhurried and open to every small sensation, the texture of the stone, the flicker of lamplight, the soft sigh of the garden's living edges. Behind him, the sky deepens to indigo, and the first full chorus of the night awakens in the trees. When he finally leaves the garden, he glances back one last time. The walls and vines are bathed in the softest mixture of lamplight and twilight, and the air still carries the perfume of flowers and warm stone. In his heart, he carries the memory of the evening, the feel of the wall under his fingertips, the quiet songs of the garden, and the sense that the world, in these hours, exists only to soothe and to hold him gently toward sleep. Chapter 27. The Comfort of Shared Silence. There are moments in Rome when words are not needed. When the city slows, the streets grow soft with evening light, and the world seems to settle into a gentle exhale. Silence becomes its own kind of conversation. This is the silence that lives between friends, between those who understand that presence itself can speak more than voices ever could. In a quiet courtyard of a villa, two young Romans sit side by side on a low stone bench. The air is warm, but softened by the first hints of night. Overhead, a few early stars begin to appear through the opening above the atrium, where the last pale streaks of sunset fade into soft lavender. The impluvium pool at the center reflects the light, rippling only when a stray breeze stirs the surface. They do not speak, but the space between them is full of meaning. One traces a finger along the stone bench, following tiny patterns of time and weather. The other leans slightly forward, eyes fixed on the faint play of light and shadow across the water. There is comfort in knowing that words are not required, that companionship can rest quietly in the air like a soft fragrance. The house around them joins in the stillness. From a distant hall comes the muffled sound of a servant setting down a clay cup. A cat drifts across the courtyard and settles near the fountain, curling into itself as the soft splash of water becomes its lullaby. A faint breeze carries the scent of laurel and warm stone, wrapping the moment in an invisible embrace. Shared silence has its own rhythm. It allows the mind to wander without leaving the presence of the other. One of the young men tilts his head back to watch the first star brighten above the roofline. He remembers walking by the river earlier that day, the soft sound of sandals on stone, and he imagines the river still murmuring in the distance, unseen but ever present. They stay this way as twilight deepens. The courtyard glows with lamplight now, soft gold against the cooling blue of the night. Shadows climb the columns, and the water in the impluvium mirrors the flame, trembling gently. One friend offers a fig from a small clay dish without a word, and the other accepts it with a quiet nod. The gesture is simple, but it feels like a sentence spoken in the language of ease and trust. Outside the villa, the city continues in its gentle evening hum. A cart creaks somewhere in a distant street. A dog barks once and then falls silent. A faint note of music floats through the air, carried by the wind from a neighbor's courtyard. All of it seems far away, softened by distance and the stillness of this shared space. Time moves differently in these moments. It stretches and folds, making an hour feel like a single breath. Thoughts come and go like drifting clouds. The friends do not need to look at one another to feel the bond. It exists in the quiet rhythm of the evening, in the soft exchange of presence, in the trust that silence is enough. When night finally settles fully over the villa, a lamp is moved closer to the edge of the bench. Its light flickers on their faces, painting them in warmth against the cool night air. They share a final glance, not to break the quiet, but to acknowledge it, to honor the soft comfort of being together without speaking. Eventually, one rises and the other follows. Their footsteps are soft as they leave the courtyard for the calm interior halls. Behind them, the impluvium continues to hold the sky and the lamplight in its trembling reflection. keeping the memory of the shared silence alive in the heart of the villa. Chapter 28. Lamps along the colonnade. Night has fully settled over the villa, and the colonnade glows with soft pools of light. The columns, tall and pale, seem to hold the shadows gently between them, like a series of quiet breaths. Along the walkway, oil lamps have been placed at regular intervals, their flames trembling slightly in the evening breeze. They cast halos of gold on the polished stone floor, which reflects the light like a still pond. The colonnade is a place of transition, connecting the open gardens with the quiet halls of the villa. By day, it is filled with footsteps and passing voices. By night, it becomes a corridor of calm, a place where the world feels half indoors and half under the stars. The roof above shelters the walkway, yet the cool air drifts freely through the open side facing the garden, carrying the perfume of night-blooming flowers and the distant murmur of a fountain. A young Roman walks slowly along the colonnade, his sandals making the faintest sound on the stone. He moves as if the lamps themselves are guiding him, their golden light forming a soft path that invites unhurried steps. He pauses by one column to lean gently against it, feeling its cool surface under his palm. The stone has held the sun's warmth all day, but now it is kissed by the night, cool and smooth against his skin. The lamps flicker, and their light dances across the carved details of the capitals. Leaves, scrolls, and delicate patterns seem to shift in the shadows, coming alive in a quiet, dreamlike way. In the soft glow, the colonnade feels like a secret world where time stretches and thoughts drift like clouds across a clear night sky. From the garden side, the night air carries gentle sounds, the whisper of leaves moving in the breeze, the quiet splash of a fish in the pond, a distant owl calling softly from the edge of the cypress grove. Each sound blends into the rhythm of the night, forming a lullaby that seems to follow the young Roman as he moves from lamp to lamp, each step lighter than the last. Halfway along the colonnade, he stops and looks outward. The garden glows faintly in the moonlight, and a single lamp reflects in the still water of the fountain. He inhales deeply, taking in the scent of earth, herbs, and the faint sweetness of flowers hidden among the leaves. The colonnade, with its soft golden light behind him and the silver night before him, feels like a bridge between two peaceful worlds. As he continues, the play of light and shadow becomes part of his meditation. His shadow stretches long on the stone, moving in gentle rhythm with the lamp's flicker. Sometimes, the breeze causes a flame to bend, and the shadow ripples as if it were water. He imagines the villa breathing with him, its long corridors and silent rooms, listening to the night's quiet music. Toward the far end, he finds a low bench and sits. From here, he can see the entire length of the colonnade, the lamps glowing like a string of golden pearls in the dark. Beyond, the garden rests in silver stillness, the moon climbing higher in the sky. He rests his elbows on his knees, letting the weight of the day slip away into the stone beneath him. Eventually, he rises to return inside, following the lamps back along the colonnade. Each step feels like a farewell to the night, though he knows the lamps will continue to glow long after he lies down to sleep. Their light will keep the villa's heart warm and soft, holding the memory of his quiet walk in its flickering reflections. The colonnade at night is more than a passageway. It is a place where light and shadow become companions, where silence and breath align, and where the simplest walk can feel like a meditation. Under the gentle glow of its lamps, the villa and its gardens seem to hold the night tenderly, offering it to anyone who wishes to pause and listen. Chapter 29. The Stillness Before Dawn. Approx 1050 words, calm and meditative narration. Before the first light of dawn touches the rooftops of Rome, the city holds its breath. Streets that will soon stir with footsteps lie in perfect stillness. Courtyards and gardens wait beneath the pale watch of stars. Even the Tiber seems to pause, its dark waters moving with a slow, thoughtful rhythm, carrying the last whispers of night toward the sea. In the villa, the world is still wrapped in slumber. The lamps have burned low, their flames reduced to soft embers. Shadows pool along the colonnades, and the cool air carries the scent of damp stone and fading smoke. A young Roman stirs quietly, rising before the sun, drawn to the delicate beauty of this in-between hour. He steps softly into the atrium, where the impluvium mirrors a fragment of the night sky. The water is perfectly still, reflecting the silver edge of the moon and a scattering of fading stars. He kneels for a moment just to watch the sky in the pool, as if holding a piece of the heavens in the palm of the villa. Even the faintest movement of his hand sends ripples across the reflection, distorting the stars into soft, trembling light. Moving outside, he walks barefoot through the garden paths. The earth is cool underfoot, and the air is rich with the scent of damp leaves and night-blooming flowers that are slowly closing. A single bird calls softly from a branch, the first hint that the day will come soon. The young Roman pauses by the low garden wall and looks beyond, where the silhouettes of cypress trees and distant rooftops lie hushed against the horizon. The stillness before dawn has its own voice. It speaks in the faint rustle of ivy in the breeze, in the drip of water from a fountain, in the soft coo of a dove disturbed in its sleep. Even distant sounds, like the creak of a cart or the bark of a far-off dog, are muted, wrapped in the gentleness of the hour. The city seems to hold all its energy close, waiting for the sun to release it. He wanders toward the outer gate, careful not to disturb the house. The street beyond is empty, lit only by the last glimmer of the moon and a few lanterns left to burn through the night. The cobblestones are cool and faintly damp, their uneven surfaces catching fragments of starlight. He takes a slow breath, letting the stillness settle into him, a feeling that seems to belong to this hour alone. From a nearby rooftop, the first faint hint of light begins to touch the sky. It is not sunrise yet, only a gentle paling, a soft gray that begins to soften the sharpness of the shadows. The young Roman leans against the gatepost, listening to the silence, knowing that soon the day will arrive with its voices and footsteps. For now, the city belongs to those who know the beauty of waiting, of existing in the pause between night and day. He returns slowly to the villa, savoring the coolness of the stone beneath his feet. In the atrium, the water of the impluvium has shifted from silver to the faintest gray as the stars above it fade. He lies on the stone bench for a moment, letting his body rest against the cool surface, and closes his eyes. The stillness before dawn is not empty. It is full of quiet promises. It holds the memory of the night and the expectation of morning, a soft bridge between dreams and waking life. As the first true light touches the walls, the young Roman drifts toward sleep again, knowing that he has held a piece of the city's gentlest hour in his heart. Chapter 30. When dreams linger in the morning light. Morning arrives in Rome not with sudden brilliance, but with a tender unfolding. The first light glides across the rooftops, touching the highest tiles before slipping down into courtyards and streets. It is a light that seems to move like a whisper, softening the edges of shadows, turning the gray of dawn into pale gold. The city stretches slowly, as if waking from its own dream. Inside the villa, the air is still cool, carrying the faint memory of the night. Curtains drift gently with the breeze from open windows. In the atrium, the impluvium reflects the soft sky, no longer holding the stars, but instead cradling the first shapes of the day: branches, tiles, the distant line of a roof. The water ripples only when a leaf falls or a breath of wind stirs its surface. A young Roman opens his eyes slowly, letting the quiet of the morning settle over him. He does not rise immediately. Instead, he remains on his mat, watching the soft light creep along the floor. Dreams linger here, blending with waking thoughts in a way that feels like floating. He recalls the gentle rhythm of the Tiber at night, the flicker of lamps along the colonnade, the soft touch of moonlight on the villa roof. In the morning light, these memories feel like echoes of a dream that refuses to fade. He rises and moves through the villa, each step unhurried. The garden greets him first, still wrapped in dew. Leaves glisten like glass, and the air smells of damp earth and the faint perfume of night-blooming flowers that have not yet closed. A single bird hops along the path, pecking at the ground, and the young Roman pauses to watch. Time does not press here. Morning is a gentle companion, not a demand. The city beyond the garden begins to stir. Faint sounds drift over the villa walls, the distant clip of hooves, the murmur of a cartwheel, the low call of a vendor beginning his day. These sounds are soft and rhythmic, weaving into the memory of dreams rather than breaking them. He leans against the warm garden wall, feeling the sun's first rays on his skin, and inhales deeply. In the kitchen, a clay cup waits, filled with cool water from the impluvium. He takes a sip, the taste clean and simple, as if the night itself has left a gift in the stillness of the villa. A servant passes quietly with a basket of bread, offering a small nod and a smile, and even this feels like part of the morning's slow music. When the light grows stronger, he steps into the colonnade. The lamps from the night before have been extinguished, leaving only the memory of their soft glow in the air. Shadows of the columns stretch across the floor, long and faint, as if reluctant to leave the company of the night. He walks the length of the corridor, letting his fingertips trail along the stone, and feels a sense of gratitude that he cannot quite put into words. Morning in Rome carries the weight of history and the lightness of dreams. The city outside will soon fill with voices, footsteps, and the clatter of daily life. But here, in the villa and its garden, the soft morning light allows the night to linger just a little longer. The memories of quiet walks, shared silences, and gentle breezes feel like they are still part of the air, woven into the golden light. Before the day truly begins, the young Roman sits in the courtyard with his back against the warm stone wall. He closes his eyes, letting the sun rest on his face, and allows the last traces of sleep to dissolve. In this moment, life feels simple, whole, and gentle. Dreams and waking thoughts merge like the ripples in the impluvium, and the soft promise of the day ahead glows in the air. When he finally rises, he carries the morning with him like a quiet blessing. The villa has held his dreams through the night, and now the morning light holds them in return. In this soft transition from sleep to life, the city and the heart feel in perfect balance, a world at peace, waiting to be lived in, step by step, breath by breath.